Hey everyone, here we are in growth impact stage. We now have a fireside chat about digital banking around the world. And we are very proud to welcome Javier Hasbun, managing partner at Digital Venture from Latin America, from Chile, and Medhy Souidi, head of Fintech and StartupXchange at DBS. Gentlemen, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Karen. Welcome everyone to this exciting fire chat with Javier. I'm Medhy. I'm the head of FinTech of DBS in Hong Kong, and my job is mostly to work with startups and incorporate them inside the bank of DBS and try to co-create solutions with new technologies, emerging technologies like AI, machine learning, big data. Today, I'm very excited to discuss with Javier about what is the impact of digital banking into the world. And we have an expert here from South America. So Javier, can you explain in a couple of words who you are, what you are doing, and where you are based, please?
Of course. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Not presently, but in a long way. I'm the managing partner of Digital Ventures. It's part of an ecosystem that we built as the Digital Bank Group. We have many components on that group, and our main focus is to join forces with the fintech industry, with startups, with big companies, so we can make it work in every way. And we are based in Santiago, and we have a strong presence in Colombia too.
Thank you very much. As this event is virtual, I would like to ask you a few questions about the current coronavirus situation. Asia was under that situation from January to May, and there's still some impact right now in July. But how is it in South America right now, and how is it for you?
Well, it's been challenging. Fortunately, I've been working, remotely from a while now, so it's not that big of a change for me, at least. So that's good. But unfortunately, there's many people who have to go out there and work because our economies are not that well. So there's people that have to go to work. So that's a problem. We are in about, at least in Chile, around 5K per day in COVID. So that's a lot considering our population. So we're all inside, as you can see. I'm in my home, so it's really a challenge to make it work. And in every country in Latin America, I think it's the same or worse, because the Chilean economy is a little bit better than the others, but I think we're really similar, and the governments are taking strong measures because we don't have a strong health system either. So that's been challenging.
Thank you very much. I hope we are doing well, and it's really interesting to see how the digital world is coming all together, because the topic today is about digital banking, but also we have the digital work right now everywhere in the world to deliver the different tasks that everyone has to do and continue the business as usual. So we have seen recently a couple of digital banking across the world. Can be in Europe, can be in Asia, can be in South America. Can you give us a clear and a quick overview of what is the digital banking in South America and how it can impact the population there?
Of course. Digital banking, it's a sure thing. It's coming. The banks like it or not. So they need to be prepared, or they're gonna be eaten by these disrupting players. Peru is launching the first one. It's called B89. Argentina already exit one. I don't remember the exact number, but I think it was about $500 million. So it's a nice exit. There's players like Willowbank, Voila, Nubank that raised over 200 millions in the past year. Chile has not digital banking because most of the banks already have apps, and it's really easy to make payments. The wires are free in the country, so it's really, I think it's a really nice ecosystem. But for example, there's a lot of Visa prepaid cards because there's a lot of underbanking people, or they just have a checking account, so they don't have credit. So they give them a prepaid Visa so they can pay Uber, Netflix, that of course are really, really useful for this kind of times. In Mexico, there's around 15 players. I think the most popular is called Flink. In Colombia, there's just this year starting one neobank called the Lulo Bank. So there's a lot of. It's going to be a really interesting fight next years, I think, for this kind of for this industry. And I think that people love not going to the bank. I mean, that's I think I haven't gone into a bank in past, I don't know, 5 years. Of course, you go once a year to, I don't know, you lost your token, but for the rest, I think it's unnecessary.
Thank you very much. There's a lot of definition of digital banking. We spoke about digital banks, virtual banks here in Asia, sometimes also neobanks. For example, in Hong Kong, we have 8 virtual banks. So those banks are granted by the Hong Kong Monetary Authority. Here, they give the license. Few rules are they don't have retail shops. They don't have physical shops inside the city, but they can operate all the operation and have their headquarters. So everything must be digital, from the onboarding to the deposit, all the services, and the loan application. So do you have something similar also in South America, or are they more competitors without having a banking license? Or you have an hybrid model where they can have access to the deposit, for example, but not the loan application?
That's a really good question. I have I know a thing or two. I had a crowdfunding platform a few years ago. So the interesting thing, at least in Chile, is that everything is allowed unless you break the law. So it's like free, but you have to be very careful. So you can be innovative in certain ways to not break the law, but to be just in the line to to make it work. Just an example, a really big company here that's called Cumplo. They have landed over 100 million per year in the factoring industry. They started a few years, like 5 years ago, and the banks say, "Hey, you are entering our space, so you need to be careful." But the court said, "No, this is not banking, because they're not receiving people for money. They just put it into one account, and 1 or 2 days before, they just transfer the money. So they're not receiving really money. They just gathering for a couple of hours, and then they transfer to the client." So that's a model, for example, that you don't need to have a banking license, but they move over 100 million per year. So that's a big player here, and even banks are investing with them now. So in other countries, for example, Mexico, they just approved the fintech regulation last year. So they put some barriers into the industry. For example, you need to have like 100K on hold to be a fintech, company that processes payments. So that's not that low barrier. You need to have 100K just in the bank. And for the working capital, the work you need to do, like 6 months ago or 1 year ago, just to have that kind of license. It's like a light license for banking.
Very interesting. This is very different from what we have here in Hong Kong, but also Hong Kong is one of the financial centers in Asia. I would like to ask you a few questions about the example you give us. What is the consumer response from those new products that they have on the market? And do you have some early insights about change of behaviors, impact on the ecosystem, or maybe if they make the society cashless, for example?
Yeah, I mean, in Chile, what is the most that we have, I believe, is the contactless, but cashless. It's really not a thing yet. I mean, of course, nobody. It's with the paper cash, but you still have your card. You don't have everything in your phone, like in the US. I happen to live in Puerto Rico and in Miami for a few years, and most of the big companies have their apps with your money inside. You can go to Starbucks and pay your. In Chile, I think the Starbucks is the only one accepting that. Another thing is that, for example, banks are really into the technology. For example, we have a company called Rocketbot. It's an RPA company, and we invested a few years ago. Now there's like 10 banks in the region using that for automating process like manual process made from executive. For example, you can download the account, the statements from your clients, and then a robot sends them into email for the client. So the executives now have more time to call their client and say, "Hey, how you doing? You have you have 10K on your bank. Why you do invested in this thing?" Instead of doing some paperwork in the laptop. Also, I think they're involving a lot of the AI and machine learning to learn from the client. We have another example of one of our other companies, portfolio, that's done a pretty interesting thing. They partner with the bank and they are giving it for free a SaaS platform for buildings, so they can manage the payments and everything for your community. So the bank that partnered with them, it's Davivienda. Now they're managing 500 millions more than before just by giving this SaaS away. So it's a really great use of fintech, and the people it's using it because they're paying everything of their building in online. And in other way they couldn't do it, and they have more benefits by using it. They can buy bulks, for example, of things for school for your kids. So you buy 100 boxes of school things, so you have a 20% discount. So there's a lot of uses in this, and banks, they need to start using tech, because they're no just competing for price now. Because even in Chile now, there's going to be you can change bank with a click. So they need, so that's in 5 days you're gonna have the same account in another bank. So now banks, they really need to compete by providing real value to a client, not just a bank account and I charge you $5 every month for doing nothing. it's not going to be a thing now.
This is really interesting because it comes to my next thought about how digital transformation is impacting traditional banks. And can you give us you give us some example of collaboration with fintechs and how we can change in a few days bank's account? But do you have some example of what's working? Where are the priorities right now, maybe in Chile or in Latina? And what are the consumer response and demand right now that you can see on the market, especially right now, maybe with the COVID-19, maybe the things are more, more digital. There is maybe the new needs, maybe a new demand from the clients. So maybe you can give us some example here and how we can change the traditional bank by digital transformation.
That's a really nice thought. I think, like I said before, they really need to embrace this kind of technology, and we have fortunately, we have a major role here. My partner Ramon Heredia, that he will love to be here as well, but he couldn't. He saw in a trip to Silicon Valley to Plug and Play that there were these big events of tech and fintech and everything like 8 years ago. So he said, well, we don't have anything like this in Latin America. So he started a little event called Digital Bank. So it's a really nice name. And now we have been doing that for kind of 8 years. We have every event in every major city in Latin America except from Venezuela for obvious reasons. We would love to have an event there, but it's not that easy. And we brought together startups. We have like 100 startups applying for every city. We only allow them to pitch around 10 per event, and we have more than between 1,000 or 2,000 people going to events. There are presidents, VPs, big guys from from banks going to this event to learn about technology. We have players like Plug and Play, Automation Anywhere, Rocketbot, a lot of cybersecurity, digital signing. So banks are really looking into this with this kind of events. We're not the only one, but we really have a great presence in Latin America. So I think that's a really helping way of doing this. The other thing that we discovered that it's education. If you don't know how to do it or how to transform a really pyramidal culture in the bank for a more transversal way, there is no way that this is going to work. So we launch a digital bank digital transformation. So we do education diplomas about digital transformation, of cybersecurity. We have a lot of well-known speakers into these diplomas. Ramon itself, it's like a rock star. He's written 3 books, so he knows a lot of how connecting dots in this industry. So that's where we do it. We love to see implementing this great startups and this great potential that we have in Latin America with the real economy, because there's a lot of startups that start doing some great stuff, but they don't have clients. That's no way of doing business. So I think we are doing we're putting of grain of sand. There's also I like to talk about this because it's really important about the funds and the entrepreneurship industry. In Chile, we have a lot of government support for the early stages. You could have from 50K up to 200, more or less in the early stages. But between that, there's a huge gap. So that's why we launch our accelerator, because we know if we do a little help, just getting a few big clients to some of these startups, they can get to their Series A or to the next level. So I think that it's really important, but we need to build an ecosystem. We cannot be the only ones doing that, because you need the Angel, the Series A, Series B. Well, now we have SoftBank even in the region doing some really large checks. I mean, Rappi, they just got $1 billion for their operation, and they didn't invest for the logistic. They invested for the wallet, so they can have access to people's what they do, what they eat, so they can offer credits or some those kind of tasks in the long term.
You just mentioned about your accelerator, and during that call, you discussed about a couple of companies that you are participating or working with. I would like to ask you about the model that you have right now, and what are the barriers to success for those companies with banks?
Okay, yeah, well, that's a real question. The problem it's not a problem. It's just how they are. At least in where we do most of our work is in Chile and in Colombia. We have offices in other countries too, but the problem is that the startup want to have a bank as a client now, and the banks they say, okay, let's do some really slow process, and maybe after a year I can hire you. So that's really not really encouraging for a startup. So that's why we created this. We for most of our startup, we have a really small portfolio, about 5 companies. We invested in some more, but of course some of them didn't work as usual. So the model that we have is we invest really early. So we really help the teams, not like a company. We help the team become a company, and we try to get B2B sales within our connections, banks, insurance companies, cooperatives, etc. So after we get them a couple of B2B clients, instead of be selling, most of the companies, they have a SaaS model. So they're selling license for 50, 100 US a month. But if you have a really big company like a bank paying you 10K or 20K a month, you really become a company, and you pass your break even, and you can focus on the long-term strategy. So that's our kind of a model. And the thing is our main operations is to provide banks in Chile and in Colombia with normal stuff like servers, cybersecurity, implementations of certain technologies. We provide them education with our deployments. So we do like a whole thing with the bank. So they really are our friends. So we have the trust to introduce them. Hey, you really need to look this company and make some tests. If you don't like it, well, that's a thing. But with Rocketbot, for example, just to give that example, they build little robots to help this little task. So instead of the competition that they build big robots for the big task, one robot could cost you $1 million. So not a really like a pilot. So instead of doing that with Rocketbot, you can test a robot for example, 5K a year. And if you like it, you can build more and more and more robots, and until you could have the same million, but with 100 of robots over many little tasks. So that's a thing. You need to try something first in the 3 or 6 months. With us, you can make it even faster. And after that, you are in the bank, you can start doing some real work.
Thank you very much. I'm working on inside a bank. So the name of the bank is DBS. It's a Singaporean company, and I'm running the accelerator internally. And we changed the model from having a cohort of 12 companies during 12 weeks, working potentially with different mentors, to a more one-on-one, where we are doing matchmaking between the needs of the business units, of the sales, of the teams of corporate banking or customer banking, working directly with the startups, and we pay for the project working together. We try to reduce also the time from a couple of months to a couple of weeks by using cloud solutions. So I don't know if you have seen something similar in America, and if you work there or not, and what are your perspective for the future of the startups with the acceleration models?
I mean, there's a lot of accelerators in Latin America. They have models that varies, but usually they ask you for a percentage on front for giving you between 25 or 50K. In Chile, they used to be run or helped by the government. Now that model is not working so well because they didn't have the aligned goal of you making a success. But there's a lot of international ones. For example, with my latest startup, I was in accelerator in Chile, in Puerto Rico, in the US, and even in Korea. So as a startup, you can be anywhere with accelerator. You can start in your country because of course it's easy. But if you have the means and you have the real deal, you can make some efforts and go and live somewhere else. I live in US for a couple of years with my latest, so you can really take advantage of this. And some of them are equity free, so that's also great. You don't dilute yourself, and you have access to great talent. For example, in the Puerto Rican one, that it was run by a former Startup Chile guy. They copied the model from Chile to Puerto Rico. We had talks from people from funds from 100 million, people from Facebook to make ads, from Google, from Amazon. So there is really no barriers anymore. I mean, in terms of access to knowledge, and I think that's knowledge. It really short your way to success, because the what they can do is making sure that you don't make the same mistakes as they did when they were entrepreneurs. So I think that's a real value there. Not the 25K. Of course, they help in early stages when you need to pay rent or something, but access to knowledge I think is what will drive this. And with COVID, I think we're having even less barriers. Now we're seeing, webinars from everyone.
I will have a question now about the availability of talent for banks and startups. Do you think that America has a lot of talent there, or do you think there is a lack of talent maybe on one specific field, and why?
Okay. On terms of talent, I think we have a great thing because most of our great programmers are going to work for Google, Amazon, or even they have teams in Colombia or in Chile or in Argentina even, because it's really cheap. Notice that cheap is because as their currency is really low. If you pay with US, it's really cheap. So um, you can do for a third of investment, you can do the same startup as you have done it in Silicon Valley. So that's a thing that some US investors are starting to see, that you can really do some interesting startups, or you can invest even in Latin America or even in India or in Asia, that we have currencies really, well, more even than the dollar or euro. Uh, the regulatory space, I think it's kind of nice in Chile, Uruguay, Mexico, then Colombia, and then Peru. I think that's the order, I believe, from my point of view. Uh, where we lack, I think, in what is the barriers? I think the culture is not that great because most of people are used to be employees, so they like to hold their job, so they don't take risk, because failure is a bad thing in Latin America. In US, if you don't fail like 2 or 3 times, you're not probably a CEO material, and just is just a thing there. But here, if you fail, you get uh, into the com. That it's like the thing where you grade a really really bad credit, and you cannot get a, a bank account. So it's really bad for you if you fail. It's like you're not allowed to fail. And I mean, entrepreneurship, it's about failing. The statistics say 9 of 10 will fail. They're just numbers. So I think we really need to work on that field. I love, so, for example, some events that are in other countries that the people only talk about failure in those events or in those webinars. And the other thing that it's, of course, it's I think the same importance as the talent is the cash. You need to have cash, of course, for building great things. The problem in Latin America that it's too concentrated. But now some, at least as I know it in Chile and in Mexico, some family office are starting to put some dollars into entrepreneurship, at least 1 or 2% of their net patrimony. That it's 1 or 2 or 5 million. I mean, they really have a lot of cash. And also, the pension funds are allowed to put investments on alternative, assets. So that's another thing where the pension, at least in Chile, they can put some investment into funds. So that could be also another way into. They haven't put any single one in a venture capital fund, but I think we are getting there. So we in my in another work that I have, I run an angel investment network here in Chile, and we are about to close an investment like this week, I hope, for a beer company that are making distillate. So that's what I'm saying. Even in COVID, we find opportunities. There's people from family office looking into this deal, and we're having demo days online, as well as the digital ventures role that and digital bank that we're doing the online demo day now. So we're having 1,000 or 2,000 people connecting at the same time, viewing a whole Latin American portfolio.
Very interesting. There is 2 points I would like to come back on. The first one is about the culture that you mentioned. We have something similar here in Hong Kong, but also in Asia, where we have what we call tiger moms. So the moms don't want that the kids work for startups. They want them to work for a large corporate with a prestigious name, because they think that it's more secure for them. So I was working on startups before. I had really good talents, and when we want to hire them, they say, "I'm sorry, but my mom," or the friend of my mom say to my mom that I should work for a big bank like Goldman or JP Morgan and not for startups, and no for them. So it's interesting to see that across the world we have that culture where people sometimes don't want to take risk, or the family is pushing them to stay on the secure job. So it's not only in it's. Do you
sorry,
think that all just
you cut a little bit? Can you repeat the last 10 seconds? Sorry.
worries. The second thing I would like to ask you is about you mentioned about the impact of investors or startups from US or company from US working with people in Latina. So I would like to ask you, do you think that companies and startups in Chile, Argentina, Brazil, or Colombia has an influence from US, for example? And if yes, how is that influence on the product, for example?
Okay. Well, for the first question, definitely yes. I mean, even my mom, I've been an entrepreneur for 12 years now. My mom always said, "Why don't you get a real job?" I have the lucky of studying in one of the best universities in Chile, Adolfo Ibáñez. It's a business school, so I have a lot of okay. I have a lot of influence from innovators or I mean workshops. I mean putting me to. I made my first company while I was in the university when I was like 21, I think. But my mom always say, "Hey, when do you get a real job? When are you?" I started working for home, so. But after a couple of years, I got a little success, so they back off. But I assure you, most of the people they get a lot of pressure from their families. And the other problem is that I had the lucky to be an entrepreneur because of my parents. Because I was without a real job for, I would say, a couple of years. So some people, they don't have the means, or they even have to work to maintain their homes. So I think that's a real problem, because you don't have the base to be a real entrepreneur. Because there's a difference to be a startup entrepreneur that have your own job with a little shop. There's no right or wrong in that. It just that difference. And the other question was, sorry.
Sorry, no problem. It was more coming back to a product side. For example, here in Hong Kong, we have a big influence from China. And you mentioned previously that a lot of talents work for US companies in Colombia, Argentina, or Chile. I just want to see or work with entrepreneurs from US. I just want to see if there is kind of influence from US on the way that the startups are created, or on the digital transformation of the bank.
I mean, definitely from legal perspective, from I think from every view, we have a little influence from US. We try to copy the business model. We even form our companies in Delaware because it's easier to get funding from Mexico or from US, of course. I mean, Chile and Uruguay are good ones to have your Latin American holdings, but I think the mostly it's US. And of course there's a lot of copycat. Not that it's wrong. I mean, you copy a business model from US and you think that you're getting bought from your competitor in the US. That's a nice way to put it. But I think you need, of course, to make difference, because it's and that's why some people from other countries fail entering into Latin America, because we have a different culture. It's not that easy just to put Uber and just go. We have some things like regulatory, or even the if you can say, the cartel of the taxis. Of the they were really against. They burn cars, so we have a, a really different culture with the technology. But yes, there is some influence, but I, I won't say this is it's full, because we even have some unicorns more in Argentina and in Brazil. In Chile we have one, and in Mexico, of course, you can find you have another bunch, but we have some unique unique model. For example, Notco was from Chile, that it's a not mayonnaise thing, where it's made of all vegetables, and it's the same taste with an AI algorithm that it tells your brain that it's mayonnaise, but it's not. So those kind of things are really great. They were invested by Jeff Bezos from Amazon.
I think we have a couple of minutes left. Maybe one of the last questions that I can ask you is, what is the future of the Latin America financial centers, and how will be impacted, and where do you see the transformation of the banking and digital banking will lead in a couple of years from now?
That's a good question. Well, I'm sure that this pandemic right now, it's a really opportunity. So banks are really full on automation, on digitalization. And one of our startups do AI for the powers, so you can open a bank account as a representative of your company. The banks usually take around 2 weeks for doing that. We do that in seconds. So, for example, that's a thing that we are doing right now, some pilots with banks. So it's really interesting that it's now. I mean, so, but for making it, we need to have a really low taxation fee if you want to become like a financial, center of Latin America, at least. And of course, by side, I would believe that maybe it would be Mexico or even Brazil, because we don't have that much size. And another thing is we have the MILA. It's a integrated Latin American stock market. It's not really well known yet, but it includes Chile, Peru, Colombia, and Mexico. So it's a interesting thing, but it's not really a really big thing for now. But once that it's established, I think in the next 5 years, you could really have like a nice IPO in Latin America, and not think that your exit it's going to be an M&A or just go to the US. And I do believe we have a strong fintech ecosystem, at least in Mexico, Chile. I think that those are, even in Argentina, that they have to do everything to survive. So they really innovative about their solutions.
Thank you very much. Go ahead. I thought you were finished.
No. I have some few words. I mean, we could become like a Silicon Valley, but we need to start bringing some capital for opportunity for funds. And after a few exits happen, where the wealth is more distributed along more investors, we could have a real ecosystem about the fintech industry, and we can make it work as a financial center, because the money won't come easy. So you need to make money to bring more money.
Definitely, and I can tell you the money never comes easy anywhere around the world. So I think what we can wish is to see more collaborations between our strong fintech ecosystem around the world. So thank you very much for this very insightful discussion. I would like to finish with one last question for both of you. Is really for the audience that is listening to us and the startups that want to be put in touch with you. What is the best way actually to contact you?
Yeah, I mean, best way, of course, always it's LinkedIn. My name is Javier Hasbun. I'm from Chile. If you can find me easily, or you can go into our website, digitalventuresla.com.
Thank you. And what about
that
you?
That would be the best way. Huh?
Yes.
No. You go ahead.
LinkedIn, for sure.
Yes.
And same for me, LinkedIn, Medhy Souidi in Hong Kong and working for DBS, or the website of StartupXchange. You have the three programs in India, Singapore, and Hong Kong. You just select the city and you just apply. Thank you.
Maybe soon in Latin America as well. Who knows? Thank you very much, gentlemen, for this discussion.
I really appreciate the time, and bye to everyone. I hope you enjoyed.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much, and thanks for the invitation and opportunity.
Thank you very much.